Breaking news! Media outlets claim the public is desensitized to violence. Now, Jack, this begs the question, is there truly no violence in denying paid claims? Or is it just different because we can't see the blood? Back to you, Jack.
Welcome to Nice Finance. If you're reading the title, you already know what this video is about.
The people telling us to respect that insurance because that was somebody's husband, that was somebody's son, yada, yada, yada. Those are the same people who are going to watch emotionless while they rip children away from their parents. And their only response to that will be, well, they shouldn't have come here legally. If you want to practice selective empathy, we can too.
If you are finally waking up to class consciousness, but you're thinking, I'm not quite sure. There's so many rich people in America. I don't really think that there's more of us than them. Can I just show you this? 98.5% of America makes under $500,000 a year. You guys got this. Good luck.
Luigi is currently fighting for his life in jail because he was brave enough to go up against the corruption that is the US healthcare system. And I'm currently fighting for my life in med school to join that corrupt healthcare system. So I'm gonna need approximately 1 to 5 business days to process this information. Thank you.
I hate to be a Debbie Downer. I know people are excited or whatever you want to call it about the United Healthcare CEO being taken out. People want to believe it's like this vigilante justice thing. I understand where that comes from. But the CEO was separated from his wife. Wife has alluded to some vague threats. Haven't seen any of this happen. All of this is, of course, alleged, but, statistically speaking, I do believe that someone was hired to take that person out. I think the etchings on the bullet are a total red herring and a misdirection from the truth. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but statistically speaking, the call is coming from inside the house on this one, you guys.
I don't care that he's right-wing. I think it's actually a good thing that he's right-wing because it proves that it's not a left versus right, but an up versus down. But they have gotten so good at stoking the flames of these issues that we are fighting each other for. They have caused those issues and made those issues a distraction. I'm not saying that these issues are not real. They are definitely real. But they are a distraction to us so that we continue fighting each other, hating each other, directing our anger towards each other instead of paying attention to what they're doing at the top. They're people. They're robbing people. They're rolling around in money. These billionaires are soon to be trillionaires. I don't know if you can understand how big of amount a trillion is. There should be no billionaires. There should never be any trillionaires. The amount of good that money could do, that these billionaires could help, but choose not to. They choose to sleep in this bed of cash while there are people suffering below, but we're still fighting each other because they're like, look at these people. They hate each other. They're fighting, but they don't know what we're doing. They're not paying attention, so we're going to continue doing it. Wake up, people. This is our time to wake up. Class consciousness.
You are not the rich people are talking about. You're not. Even your neighbors with their BMWs, they're not. A parking lot full of BMWs, Porsches, Teslas, it's a parking lot full of debt most of the time. And if the car's paid off, it's a depreciating asset. It's literally not even an asset. When we think of wealth, we think of the wealth we can see in our lives. We think of brands like Gucci, which are supposed to symbolize wealth, but really they're intended to bankrupt the middle class with consumerism. You could have been making 6 figures for 10 years. You could be making 7 figures, and you're still closer to someone who lives on the street. That's not an insult to them than you are to the rich. Anyone can become impoverished in this country at any time because anyone can become sick at any time. Anyone can become disabled at any time. Anyone's family member can die at any time. And I think a lot of Americans know that they are really just one bad life event away from utter destruction. Again, this was why we were all screaming about taking COVID seriously. It was a great event. It was a great disabling event. More Americans than any war. It spurred the largest transfer of wealth in the United States. So if you feel offended because you're making $150,000 a year, you're not even a crumb when we're talking about eat the rich. I mean, like, good for you, but like...
One of you will betray me tonight. Is it me, Jesus? No. Is it me, Jesus? It's not you either. Is it me, Jesus? Is it me, Jesus?
Another thing, when they say that the gunman had no perceivable motive, It's because they're trying to keep you from understanding that his motive is something that is very common among a lot of United States citizens. If these media channels were to admit that Paulson went after the CEO of United Healthcare specifically because of United Healthcare's predatory claims denial process, then that is admitting that there is in fact a problem with the United States healthcare system, which is not something the people who own legacy media want you to think. I want you to picture this. Imagine CNN or MSNBC has one of their anchors go on TV and say, well, it looks like he went after this CEO because he was fed up with the way that health insurance companies are constantly exploiting Americans and making it harder to afford health insurance, let alone the medications and procedures that they need to survive. Do you think hearing that on the news is going to make you more or less sympathetic to the gunman? Because a majority of Americans are already thinking real nasty things about healthcare executives. What do you think they're going to start thinking and planning if the news tells them, hey, guess what? You're not the only person who thinks this way. In fact, the gunman had the same motive that you have for an action you just haven't taken yet. Take that a step further. Do you think that is going to decrease or increase the chance that this kind of violence against CEOs increases? It is all about messaging.
Can we just agree that if the police really got their guy with Luigi Mangione, that the dude is the literal Joker? And let me tell you why. So I know everybody right now is focusing on the fact that Altoona, Pennsylvania is another reference to the railroad and Monopoly, the Monopoly money, like he's been dropping these hints the entire time. But has anybody heard the address that was on the fake ID that was on him when they picked him up? The address was listed as 128 Sherman Place, Maplewood, New Jersey. Sherman Place, real street in that town, but a 128 address does not exist. Why does it matter, you might ask? Well, maybe it doesn't. Or if we continue to follow the logic that Luigi is a very intelligent person, went to an Ivy League school, went to private school for high school, was valedictorian of his class, and everything he has done up to this point seems extremely intentional. On justice.gov, you should go look up the Sherman Act, and then specifically go look at Section 2, Chapter 8. And this section is titled Competition and Monopoly, Single Firm Conduct. And just so you're aware, Section 2 makes it illegal to monopolize. That is the whole point of this section. All right, here we go. I'm going to read a few parts from the introduction of this chapter. Again, if you want to read it, I suggest you pull up justice.gov and read the entire thing. I am not going to go through all of it. But here are the points I want to call out. Exclusive dealing describes an arrangement whereby one party's willingness to deal with another is contingent upon that party, 1, dealing with it exclusively, or 2, purchasing a large share of its requirements from it. Exclusive dealing is common and can take many forms. It often requires a buyer to deal exclusively with a seller. Blah-de-blah-de-blah, but exclusive dealing can be anti-competitive in some circumstances. For example, exclusive dealing may allow one manufacturer, in effect, to monopolize efficient distribution services and thereby prevent its rivals from competing effectively. As then Judge Breyer explained, exclusive dealing can harm consumers by thwarting entry or inhibiting the growth of existing rivals. But here's my favorite part. Exclusive dealing arrangements may sometimes be found unreasonable under antitrust laws because they may place enough outlets or sources of supply in the hands of a single firm or small group of firms to make it difficult for new potentially competing firms to penetrate the market. To put the matter more technically, the arrangements may foreclose outlets or supplies to potential entrants, thereby raising entry barriers. Higher entry barriers make it easier for existing firms to exploit whatever power they have to raise prices above the competitive level because they have less to fear from potential new entrants. Sound familiar? The dude is the Joker. You cannot convince me otherwise. With each new piece of information that comes out, he has thoroughly thought this through. And again, that Karen, okay, that called, but also did he want to get caught? Because I feel like he did. I feel like he's just making a point. I don't know. Anyways, this is wild.
If we've learned anything in the last week from the situation with Mario's brother, it's that our collective no is powerful. Our collective no, when we're being told by the media how to respond to a situation, and we say, no, that is powerful. And I think it's really important that we all start moving in a direction of utilizing that collective no more frequently.
The real question is that people are not clear on capitalism, because capitalism is a very vicious system, but what it does is it embroideries its viciousness with all sorts of elusive terms. For example, many of us would support capitalism because we actually believe that in a capitalist system, there's a chance for us to get the same amount of money as Rockefeller gets, because we're told that under capitalism there is equality of opportunity. So that we feel that if this year we didn't make as much as Rockefeller made, then we got to work a little bit harder, and next year we're going to make it. But if we carefully examine a capitalist system, we will see that it's based on exploitation, because the viciousness of capitalism, and the reason why once black people examine it, we can never be for it, is that under a capitalist system, the fruits of those who labor are enjoyed by somebody else. That is, those who do the laboring, the fruits of their labor, they don't enjoy it. As a matter of fact, we could say under capitalism that the fruits of the labor of the toiling masses are enjoyed by those who do not labor. And again, as black people, we have clear examples of it. If from slavery, all we got to do is go to Nixon and say, hey, look, you give us the fruits of our labor from slavery and we forget the score. We would be the richest people in the country, again, because under capitalism, the individual exploits the labor of the people. Now, people get confused because this is a capitalist system and it's a developed system. It's a technological system. So they combine capitalism with technology and development, and they think that there is no other possible way to develop this rapid terms of development without going through the capitalist route. But certainly we have examples that show the opposite of that. China is a clear example of that. Cuba is, North Korea, North Vietnam. These countries certainly in Africa, where countries have chosen the socialist path, such as Tanzania, Guinea, Congo, Brazzaville, Algeria, we see that there is another way to develop and get the same type of things that we have under the capitalist system, but in a system that does not exploit each other, where all of us work and the fruits of our labor are divided evenly. Let me show you how backward capitalism is. It's a backward system. We could make two statements about capitalism to show how backward it is. About America. America is a capitalist country. It's thoroughly capitalist. It's an imperialist country. But we could say that, number one, America is the most technologically advanced country in the world. And that's an undeniable fact. It's a truism. It's a truism. America is the most scientifically developed country in the world. And right under that, we could say a second fact, which will show you how backward America is. We could say that America, in 1945, made for her people better cars than she does in 1973. And if you analyze this, you'll see how vicious the system is, because here's America with its great technological, which they can do with the scientific knowledge that's at their fingertip. They rather take this knowledge and build a car which will break down every 2 years, so you're forced to buy another car. Thus, you see, under capitalism, what they do is they take their scientifics, and rather than using it for the benefit of the people, they use it to further exploit the people. And certainly this type of system is too backward.
If you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing, sharing the video, and giving it a thumbs up. Until next time, take care.